All right. Hello, everyone. And welcome back to Rain World. We're doing some Rivulet. This has been a category that I've been kind of like practicing here and there, and I think that I want to like follow through with the practice specifically. So mostly the beginning of the run, I'm like mostly very familiar with, from like drainage system up to the wall and like parts of underhang I'm pretty confident with, but like the second half of underhang, the actual like the raw 5 pebbles, and like shaded shoreline, those are probably like some of my least practiced regions. So actually for a while here I'm going to be just doing practice runs for movement, because I think that, you know, eventually I want to do more attempts, and maybe I will get around to attempts later in the stream, but this is just practice for now. I have a bunch of mods enabled. So we're starting here in underhang. It's not consistent with that. This is why we need this mod. Just for that one moment. Oops. That's a much better way to do that. Although this room is kind of awkward in general. Not really clean way to do it. The moment you go through that screen transition, you want to try to hold upwards to grab the pole. And then part way through swinging, you want to release and like kind of hold backwards, so you don't fling yourself into the rot on the wall. In this room, there is a DLL, usually. Of course, that's disabled with the mod that I have on, but sometimes the DLL doesn't even show up normally. But even if they're in the way, if you're moving fast enough, sometimes you can just kind of run past them. If I had more rocks and stuff to throw, could have done that faster. I also have a karma requirements disabled just because I didn't want to have to grind karma for practice. Now this is a region that I am not very confident with. Mostly because the gravity switching means that, you know, for some rooms I just don't know what to do if the gravity is not what I'm expecting. Like this room. Gravity is normal, but I can't make it up here, right? I guess you could just make that jump. Even though I like fail to do it pretty much every other time. Those clouds. What's up with those shadows? Hello. Welcome to the stream. You also really need to be familiar with like when exactly the gravity is switching, since it can actually be kind of hard to tell with all the sound effects. visual changes going on. So there were a bunch of neurons in that room, but they were kind of hidden. They fell into pipes and stuff. This room, you can do it without the low gravity. Doing a wall bounce into that corner and then bang into that rod. So I don't really have a good way to do this. But that actually worked pretty well. Hold up, I'm gonna stay in this room. I want to see if that's a better way to do the wall paths. Oh, that immediately made me launch into the rot. Okay. Oh yeah, if you do that, you pretty much immediately get grabbed. But if you do it like that, then I feel like I used to have a really consistent strategy for this that I actually used in the world record run, but I'm not able to recreate it as easily as I was expecting. Yeah, pretty much that is exactly what I did. It's really finicky though. It's probably worth it most times just to wait for gravity to switch if you're not confident with that. And like I'm barely confident with it. You can get grabbed by the rock pretty easily. You might not even make it to the top. Yeah, but doing more Rivulet. But I want to focus on practice today. I think I'm much worse at the second half of the run. And I want to focus on that. That could have been dangerous. I feel like up until Pebbles, I pretty much have like all the movements memorized completely. I know exactly what to do, where to do slide bounces, extended slides, and wall bounces and stuff like that. And then I get here and it's like I'm just kind of like doing whatever feels fast. I don't exactly have like a plan for the best way to move. That was a horrible mistake. Some of these areas I do have planned out a little bit more. I can do a backflip there, but I could get stuck on that. Go slide bounce here, and then he perfectly lines you up with the pipe. I haven't done that before. Maybe that could work. Doing a roll there. One sphere runs. What do you mean close to world records? Like close to the story percent world record? Which itself isn't very optimized. It's still funny how like a lot of categories in Rain World, the downpour one specifically, how far away they are from being like really optimized. I doubt that like most categories even have like an ideal route figured out. Of course, you can't really say that for most games. It's gonna take time to find like there's pretty much always small little improvements to be made here and there, even on some like very popular speedrunner games. What happens if you go from an area safe from rain to an area unsafe from rain during rain? You die. That can happen in this area if you don't stay in this shelter. You step outside this, like the moment you enter this room, you just die instantly. The moment you come out of the pipe. It's like in any speedrun, there's like little areas here and there to optimize. But for Rain World, I feel like they haven't even got to the point where there's like, where they like have a rough idea that what they're doing is like the best thing to do. Like I'm pretty sure that for even the Rivulet run, there's probably some improvements to be made here and there. I'm not aware of. But I'm pretty sure that what I'm doing is like somewhat close to ideal. Or at least I'm aware of the ways that it can be improved, even if I don't go for them in actual runs. But some runs like Ormond or Beermaster, I feel like they just don't really have that many runs. Not enough runs for us to be confident that like there's probably plenty of improvements to be made if someone just went and like looked at the run in its entirety to see like. And I don't just mean the route of like which rooms you go to, like the path that you should take through the run. That's part of it, right? But also the main part is what's your movement in every single room, and do you have that planned out? I have a decent amount of movement for this run planned out. Like I know right here I want to do a slide pounce to line up with this spot, grab onto this pole, jump up. Don't do a backflip. That kind of actually works though. I like have a decent idea of like what exactly the movement I want to do for each room. I feel like that's not even the case for a lot of other runs where it's mostly just sight reading, which is pretty easy in this game. You know, like, oh, I'm in a flat area here, so I can do a slide pounce and then a roll here, and you know, you kind of like figure out what to do. And of course, if you do a run enough, you get to like some amount of memory of like what to do. But it's sometimes, you know, the memory of what to do doesn't exactly line up with the best thing to do. And I think a lot of runners don't want to like spend the time to do every single room and find the perfect movement for it. But I also kind of like that idea. I enjoyed that process for this run and a few others that I did. Trying to see like what is the best way to do this room, even if it only saves like a second or two. If you do that for every single room, then you save like a minute or more on the whole run. And it actually makes the run feel like a real speed run. If you look at a lot of other games that are popular to speedrun, even like, I mean, of course, just because they have more players, the runs are going to be better. But you can look, like even like some beginner players have a decent idea of like route to follow and some movements to work towards. Like for Rain World, it's so much more casual. It's just like, oh yeah, if you want to speedrun, just kind of like take this path and like try to beat the game. Doesn't really matter what happens in between those 2 points. This is not good. I think creatures kind of mess with that whole process. And like RNG in general. Whoops, you don't want to line on that. Horrifying abominations of nature. I mean, I guess it kind of depends on the scale of the slug cat. If the slug cat is like human-sized, or even like cat-sized, like there's some huge spiders in this game, you know. Okay, don't do this in actual run. But a lot of people are like discouraged to go for like a real run because they know that it's going to take a lot of attempts. It's going to be annoying and inconsistent at times. I kind of would like maybe if more people tried out the no creature runs. I don't even know if anyone else has done it. I mean, I'm definitely sure that some people have played the game with creatures disabled using a mod. But if any like high level speedrunners tried it out, I don't not anything that I'm aware of. I think that it kind of, I've talked about this about, so you probably already are aware. But I think the no creature runs are closer to making the game feel like an actual like speedrun game, where you just learn the movement and you do the run, see how fast you can beat the game. It's not about if you run into some amount of creatures that really slow you down. Like the Saint run, like have the movement down pretty well, but I did a wall bounce there. I feel pretty confident with my movement in the Saints run, but I'm not confident with RNG. And you can't be. But when I remember, like, okay, let me think about the English language for a second. Sometimes I kind of lurk in some Rainbow Discords. I like hearing about discussions, like speedruns and stuff, but I feel like no one, like there's rarely discussion of like individual room strategy, or yeah, individual room movement. I think that's very rare. I kind of want to see that stuff, like, oh, in this room you can optimize, you can make a slight optimization by doing like a slide pounce here and then roll once you land on this part of the floor, right? And that's the kind of thing that I did for a while for this run. I looked through every room and I figured out what's the best way that I can move. And I compared the times. I tried out new techniques like the wall pounce. Just tried to see like how many small improvements can I make on this run. And I feel like that's not really common in this community. It's more like, oh, here's an interesting category. I guess I'll try it out. And then you play the category. And then you play it again. You play it a few times until you get a better time. And maybe you get a world record too. Maybe one of the few categories that has had that level of optimization is the any percent run. Or maybe also the Pebbles percent run. That's just because those are the few categories. Those are the only few categories in the whole game for many years, right? So if you were a speedrunner, those were the categories you did. And maybe you'd also do hunter runs. And Monk wasn't any different than Survivor, other than a few creatures here and there. Yeah, that's pretty common in video games. Any game with like an insect enemy, they're huge because it of course to be annoying to fight against an insect that's actually the size of an insect. So it's like, oh, let's make a spider enemy, but let's just make them massive, like the size of the player character. Like mother spiders would be awful. I don't know. Right. The funny thing is that Terraria actually has like somewhat realistically sized insects. Like they're actually very small, only a few pixels big. But even those insects are like very large, like the size of like your entire foot. I guess there actually are insects in Rain World that are like reasonably sized, like a few of the ones in the background. They're like a single pixel. Well, I'm referring to the critters. Those have reasonable sizes. Of course, the insect enemies are huge too. Careful. I heard that you can spam the swim boost button to like swim very fast without using air. Anyway, about speedruns. I've seen a little bit of a trend recently of looking into wall bounces, which I'm very excited about. Just like finding like, oh, here's a place in a run where you can use a wall bounce, or here's a place as like Hunter or as Rivulet, you know? I think Rivulet is the most obvious character to use wall bounces in. But, you know, other characters can do them too. Yeah, you can swim boost a lot without using too much air. The thing is that in these long tunnels, specifically in this part of the game, the breath actually does matter, where you can barely make it to places even with the rarefaction cell. Oops, don't do that. But I just wish there were more like, discussions about specific like movement tech. I still would like to see some category to be picked out as like an important category. And then for some amount of time, everyone tries as much as possible to optimize that run. I'd like to see that, because I know that there's so much potential in this game for really interesting speedruns. It's just that, like, when there's creatures involved, or when the run is really long, you know, no one wants to go out of the way to optimize all of that and to actually do the runs. No crash. Yep, no game crash. I'm still like scared of doing real attempts and like having the game crash at the end of a really good run. Oops, that's bad movement there. Okay, that's not very good. Okay, good to know that that can happen. Ooh, doing a jump after that is actually even worse. That's not optimal movement, but it's really funny. To be a task of Rain World. I have no idea how RNG manipulation would work, but I feel like it'd be a huge pain because you'd have to like manipulate the RNG of creatures that are like several rooms away. And even then, you'd probably just want to manipulate RNG so that creatures never get in the way at all. And in that case, you might as well just disable creatures, right? In which case, you could definitely do a task. That was the fastest entrance to that pipe I've done. Just got back. Is this a good run? Yeah, it's actually world record by several minutes. 25:40, like that's crazy. I didn't expect to be able to save several minutes. This is not a real run. You already see from the warp menu. I'm doing practice runs of the second half of this category. And also, a task of this game would be kind of weird because, well, okay, I guess this is kind of the point of a task, but there's a lot of movement tech. There's a lot of movement tech that is like frame perfect, so tasks would look very different. Turn the volume off. I'm doing practice runs of basically pebbles and onwards. I feel more confident with the, well, maybe I should start from like shaded or something. Let me check the map to see which room to go to. I didn't know you could just spawn in a refraction cell with dev tools. I got this music is still playing. Okay. I just lied about that. How many challenges I've done? I've like 100% in the game, except for the collection. I've done all the challenges, I've done all the expeditions. I don't think I've done all the arena unlocks though. Not all the arena unlocks, the like the pearls or the broadcast, like all that stuff I haven't completed fully. It might be better. I've heard that it might be better in this room. Did you grab the third pole? I messed up. Yeah, I've done challenge 70. 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's a shorter pole, so that's why I'm not grabbing it. It might be better to grab onto that pole and drop onto that one, but I feel like the high speed from accelerating that far probably worth it to wait. Challenge 70 actually took several days. Not like more than 24 hours of actual gameplay, but like maybe like an hour or two of attempts for like multiple days in a row. Till I finally beat it. It's okay. The challenge actually sucks. It's really bad. Like I've played bullet hells before, if you're generous with the definition of a bullet hell. But challenge 70 does not do a good job of being a bullet hell. Just because your movement is inconsistent, that's the main problem. If you had the light ability active permanently, that would actually make it a fun challenge. Because you could fly around very precisely, just as if you were playing a normal bullet hell, right? Where you have that very precise control over your position. But in that challenge, of course, that ability has a cooldown. Just don't do that. The ability has a cooldown, so you can't just have that on forever. And the tongue, the alternative, of course, is you use your tongue to move around. But that is very slow. You accelerate very slow, and you can grapple onto things, like the actual tongue. You can grab onto the walls, which doesn't do... Sometimes it doesn't do anything, but sometimes it like pulls you forward really fast. And sometimes you can also grab onto the iterator in the middle. It's just inconsistent. You can't rely on... Can't rely on it working the same way every single time. And when you're doing a bunch of precise dodging, you need to know that it's going to work all the time. I'm sure that the challenge would be like 100 times easier if you could just use the ability the entire way through. You could just use the flying movement. Is it about to rain? It is. I actually know why that's happening. Because I started... Can I go down? Hello? I started from the wrong shelter. If I started from... Also, I don't actually know how to speak the English language. I haven't taken out the refract until I just spawned this one in, so cycles are still going to be very short. Also, welcome to the stream. Yeah, and people say like, oh, Challenge 70 is in the game because the developer of the mod, they just really like Toho, right? I think that's it. They're a fan of Toho, which is a bullet hell series. But I disagree with that. Like, there's no way you could be a fan of a bullet hell game and then make something as awful as Challenge 70. And I'd like to believe that they accidentally forgot to make the ability permanent in that for that challenge, because that would have made it so much better. Also, I don't have Neuron Glow. I guess it doesn't really matter. This is only going to be dark for like 2 rooms. Killed 2 Mirrorless Vultures at Spearmaster? I have no idea. That challenge is also really bad. Not really the challenge, but just Mirrorless Vultures are impossible to kill. But the most consistent way to do it is just to camp out in the tunnels and like just throw a bunch of spears at them. The moment they start doing their laser thing, just like back away. One thing that can help is that once they're doing their laser charge up, you can just like run at them and spam spears at them, because they can't bite you while they're charging the laser. But that's like not really helpful because you're going to be dealing with both of them at the same time. They just kill each other? Yeah, I don't know. But I don't think they should be able to run away. Like whenever you're in the arena mode, they shouldn't be able to run. They'll always come back eventually, even if they're injured. So I guess the best thing is just to keep doing attempts and eventually get lucky. That's the wrong direction. If you look at the input display, I was not holding to the left at all, but I went there anyway. Forgot that this room is dark. I just never noticed that in attempts. What's my objective? So first of all, these are practice runs. I have a bunch of mods enabled that make the game easier, but it makes it much easier to like do practice for when I do real attempts. But the objective, well, I hope you're familiar with the campaign. It is just getting the main ending for Rivulet. And if you don't mind spoilers, I guess I can explain a bit of what that objective is exactly. Do that. You have completed Rivulet? Okay. That was close. Don't do that. Not a fan of this room. It's about to rain soon. I actually might be able to make it in time before the rain becomes lethal. It is dangerous down here. So I'm only a few rooms away from the end. Normally in a real run, the rain is not a problem because you would have taken the refraction cell out, which lengthens the cycles a lot. But in this run, I just teleported myself like halfway into the run, and then gave myself a refraction cell, so that did not lower the length of cycle or lengthen cycles. So it should increase or if it shortened the length of cycles even more. I think actually I am dead here. I think the moment it starts raining, this next route becomes lethal instantly. Yeah, it just zaps you. I will do something, however. This is where I would have gone if it didn't rain. It's gated so much. What did they ever do? Are they bullying you? I think I like that movement more than whatever I tried to do last time. If you could, you could do a wall bounce here. I just don't think you are able to build up enough speed. And you kind of bonk into that platform. Yeah, it feels too inconsistent. Oh, for that challenge? Actually, I don't know what challenge you're talking about. But I can see that. Some challenge where you need to eat food to get points, and it's good Gator just does that. I really like the music here. Although I always associate it with expeditions. It's the same song that plays when you finish an expedition, and when Downpour came out, I did a lot of expeditions. But I always associate it with that more, but it is a nice song. I want to do something different here. Yeah, you can do a slide pounce a lot earlier there than when I usually do one. It's probably worth doing that. I feel like that was a lot faster than normal. I think I want to do a full run with no creatures. I didn't think I'd still be able to throw something. I thought that the cutscene would start immediately. I guess you have a moment where you can still throw something. And if you do a swim boost, it pushes you forward based on the direction of your head. So if you just happen to be facing backwards and you do a swim boost, you will just swim boost backwards. Fall with the dead scav. Who knows what happens up there? Just average Rivulet activities. I'm not gonna karma cash. Except karma requirements disabled. It would be really nice Okay. There's a bit of a debate in the speedrunning community of if karma or the remix setting that disables karma requirements, if that should be allowed. And right now it isn't. It's not allowed, which makes sense. It makes sense. I understand why, but also I understand why not. I think that karma requirements on gates are important in one way, but annoying in another way. And mainly the thing that they help with is the start of runs. When the first gate that you need to go through is like 3, 4, 5 karma level, that's how much you have to karma cash at the beginning of every single run. It just takes a long time. If you're doing a lot of attempts, it's just like hours of time spent just karma cashing where you're not doing anything. However, I think that karma requirements are important for other parts of the run, mainly deaths. So when you die, of course, your karma level goes down, which is mainly, I think, the main intent of the mechanic. Karma requirements encourage you to not die as much as possible, so that you can move around. Basically needs to prove that you're able to like survive in order to enter a new region that may be more difficult. I think that should stay in speedruns. If you die too much in the middle of a run, you shouldn't just be able to keep going. Like, there is a point where there is too much. It also adds value to karma flowers. So if you want, you can eat a karma flower halfway through a run. But it also means that if you die later, then you still have enough karma to keep going. However, you know, disabling karma requirements would be nice for not having to karma catch at the beginning of every single run. But also means that you can get away with a lot of like deaths and mistakes and like keep going in a speedrun. Maybe it would just be nice if you could start at a karma level of 5. That way you don't need to karma catch at the beginning of runs, but if you die, your karma level still goes down. Dude, how do you do a fast fall there? Maybe this could be a category, like streamlined. No creatures, karma requirements disabled, just the speedrun. That's it. Just the movement. No other gimmicks. Maybe I should try to make that a thing. Like, how would that work for some categories, like Artificer? There's also probably a lot of people who actually find the creatures a fun part of the game for speedruns. Probably people who aren't too serious about getting crazy good runs, but who just enjoy playing the game at a like decently fast pace. I know, small time loss. Don't mind that. Killing an inspector was incredibly easy. I'm glad that was your experience with it, because that challenge took a very long time for me. That's a Spearmaster challenge, right? It just takes like, actually I think the amount of spears that it takes to kill an inspector is just totally random. Every hit, there's just a random chance that they die to it. So it just took a long, I just kind of got unlucky. It only takes one spear for them to kill you. Like you can hide in that, and like a hold to like try to avoid getting hit. But then you have to like reveal yourself in order to throw a spear back. Maybe there's a good spot to do that, but I haven't found it. Or I didn't find it when I was doing that challenge. Just didn't want to do that. Welcome to RNG zone. How long did it take me to complete Challenge 70? A few days of attempts. I can't tell you the exact number of hours, but definitely more than one, and maybe more than two. It's just like Sans Undertale. You know, I've never fought Sans. You know, I've played Undertale. But you know that he's a test, right? The whole point of Sans is to discourage you from doing the bad route. Oh, I'm gonna go do the genocide route just because there's more content and more bosses to fight. That's the point. You're like, oh, more content, even though you are probably sacrificing a save file that has a completed like pacifist run. And also like going out of your way to like kill everyone. Just to fight a few more bosses. Like, that's not very nice. That's the whole like point of Undertale, at least in the genocide route. Bad cycle. I don't know if doing a roll past there is worth it. Oh dear. Oh dear. That one DLL just spends his entire life just like reaching down that tunnel hoping something shows up. Just for the one time Rivulet runs through. Actually, I guess you can run through that area twice. But you're much less likely to get grabbed on the second way through because you can just fall down. You know, Challenge 70 is probably harder than Sands. The main difference is the length of the fight. Like if Challenge 70 was as long as that entire boss fight, then it would be much more difficult just because of the janky controls. And the one-shot kills. I like doing a charge pounce there because you could kind of do a bunny hop afterwards to preserve some of the momentum. If you do a slide pounce, you bonk against the ceiling, and if you do a regular jump, then it's not as fast. But you can do the jump instantly with no delay, so it might be better anyway. I'm not really sure. I haven't tested them, and even if I did, they would only be like less than a second different. If you want to do a slide pounce there, you have to do it like immediately once landing. There's these like few blocks on that platform. You jump over those blocks and you immediately have to do a slide pounce when you land. There's like a specific spot on the floor where you do it and it lines up with so that you land on the platform. And I don't recommend trying to grab the poles afterwards, because you're usually moving too fast to be able to like hold on to them. You'll slip off the pole and fall to your death. So like landing on the platform, do a roll pounce, and then you slow down a little bit so you can grab onto a pole after that. I still prefer doing it this way. Took fall damage though. Going through these tunnels might be a little bit slower than just finding a way to fall down the other parts of the room a lot faster. Because of the DLLs that are usually in the way, I don't think it's worth it. You're just gonna fall into one from off screen. I'm not good at this room. Sometimes I grab the pole, most of the time I take fall damage. The beginning of the Rivulet store percent run is very like creature heavy. In drainage system and chimney canopy, there's a lot of creatures. So those are the main things that are going to be slowing you down. But the second half of the run is a lot easier. There's like a few DLLs that kind of get in the way, a few lizards in this room, a few spiders, you know, like just a few small things here and there that don't usually get in the way too much. So the majority of the RNG in this run is early on. Means I really want to make sure that I'm consistent with the second half, so that if I do make it past the RNG parts of the first half, then I'll be able to confidently make it through the rest of the run. You can be a little bit slow in that part while you're waiting for the rarefaction cell to recharge. Maybe a charge pounce is better for this room compared to a slide pounce. Not for this room though. Slide pounce is much better. Hello? There we go. Kinda got that to work and I didn't even utilize it correctly. Low fruits? Like the ones in submerged superstructure? I think I don't really see those. Well, I guess I don't really remember the challenges that well. I know slime mold's pretty common. Probably because you can just put it on the floor and it's there. It's also pretty visible. Blue fruit need to be hanging from the ceiling, and other fruits are usually more specific in their positions. Any tips for Saints campaign? Lancing your stomach, that's true. Although try to keep this spoiler free. I'm not sure. I have like speedrun tips. Do you want to speedrun Saint even though you haven't played it before? Do not go to garbage waste. I think the best advice maybe is to just focus on being like evasive. Saint is not able to throw spears. You can still throw rocks, but it's not very helpful. So it's best just to try to avoid everything as much as possible. You have really good mobility and try to take advantage of it as much as possible. If you ever have an opportunity just to jump over something instead of confronting it directly, then you should take that opportunity. And if you have to wait something out to like move out of the way, then just wait, you know. Although since you've made it to Saints, you probably already know some of this stuff. I'm not sure if I have any other like specific advice for Saint, but having the lantern in your stomach is probably the biggest one. Be wary of the weather. In Rain World? That's a crazy idea. No, it's funny how little it actually rains in this game. Like, the rain is mostly only important when you're first, like, starting out. The more you play and the more you get familiar with the location of shelters and food, then, like, the more... And also how aware you are of how long the cycle is. The rain kind of just stops being a problem. It mostly just prevents you from doing crazy things like running across half the map in one cycle. And you kind of learn those limits and you get used to it, so they just kind of don't really influence the way you play other times. That's really bad. Not like it matters for this run, but you don't want to make that kind of mistake. Because now the refaction cell's turned off and it would have helped in this room. It would also helped if I didn't get stuck on those blocks. I'm still not completely comfortable with Rivulet's underwater movement. It just still feels really uncontrollable. Get a mod that removes the rain timer. Maybe it'd be cool that if instead of a timer there was like a few small indications that it was about to rain. So if you were paying close attention, you'd be able to know like, oh, it's about to rain in like 2 minutes. Because it's pretty obvious when it's about to rain like a minute before it does. That like leading minute, it's like pretty obvious, but until then, you're not really sure. So maybe like 2 minutes before it starts raining, there's like a slight change in the environment and it's like, oh, it's about to rain, if you pick up on that. But I should have activated that sooner. Or maybe not. There was a time limit. It's funny that that one challenge and like a handful of other challenges are like the only times you ever interact with firebugs. It's unfortunate because I think they're really cool creatures. At the very end of the run, I'm throwing. This is not a real run. No, and welcome to the stream. Even then, this is probably still slower. That's very close. I always forget what my record is. Two seconds faster. What was that big mistake that I made? I think like just trying to enter some pipe like underwater was really slow. I guess I never really realized until recently just how good the world record run is. I don't know what happened in that run. Everything kind of worked perfectly. But you would think of that with all of the practice that I've done in the optimizations and the wall pounces. And then in this run, like doing it without creatures, I was only 2 seconds faster. That's all I was able to improve. I guess I'm going to move on to real attempts now. But I really do have to do everything perfectly to make a significant improvement to the run. Oh, I guess I messed up that one jump with the rarefaction, so. I think I might also have to change some remix settings. Yeah, I do. The karma requirements. Are you guys excited for some karma caching? Favorite custom regions so far? I haven't even played any custom regions. Maybe if you guys could recommend some really good ones. I'm not really sure which ones that have been like released so far. But I feel like just kind of the idea of most custom regions is kind of underwhelming. Because I'm not going to have any custom regions like permanently enabled. Like I barely have any mods that are like that. something that I just have on permanently, like the fast roll button or input display. Like those are very minor changes. But any mod that like adds something significant to the game, I don't think I'm gonna ever like leave that on for a long time. And that's pretty much the only thing I need to change. Like, okay, so for most modded regions, right, it adds a connection between 2 or more other regions in the game, right? Like a connection between memory crypts and subterranean. If you ever want to like add a little shortcut to the game, right? But since I'm not gonna have that mod enabled, other than like the one time that I check the mod out, right? Like, there's no reason to like learn the region. I guess that's kind of like a specific way to look at it, right? As if regions are only useful for how they can benefit you in game. Like, oh, this region is useful because it's a good shortcut between these 2 regions. And in that case, then most mods are pretty useless because I'm not gonna have them enabled, so there's no point in like learning like how to navigate them quickly. I think I'd prefer a region mod that specifically added something that was like an interesting challenge on its own. Like Metropolis is always the region that I bring up, or like Metropolis or Outer Expanse, where you go through the region and there's an ending. And when you make it to the ending, it's like, congratulations, you've beaten this region, right? And in Downpour, beating the region is beating the campaign for Gourmand and Artificer. I like if there was a mod like that, but I don't know if I want to check out any other mods that's kind of like connections between other regions. Oh, really? That was instantaneous. I guess I did consider the possibility of playing like a modded character and a modded region at the same time. So there's a little bit more like interesting stuff to do for a stream. But also, playing a modded character might make it completely unbalanced if that character has like really good movement. I know some custom regions probably like have, they're specifically balanced around having like challenging platforming. If you play as a really like broken character with like really good movement, then that might kind of defeat the purpose of the challenge. Not been very good at that jump recently for some reason. Come on, I wasn't looking. That sucks. Are there any interesting like platforming based regions? Like not even like really regions that are like part of the main game, but just like a region that's completely isolated that is just like a platforming challenge. Because just like the Slug King, that was the kind of fun mod, but that came out like right at the release of Downpour. That was pretty fast. I know that there's kind of like a small little other sub community in Rain World of those kind of movement challenges, but I feel like they're usually focused on like the really advanced tech. Has some platforming. Of course it has some platforming. Every region has some platforming. Mast. Is the Mast that like really tall region? Kind of similar to the Echo in Metropolis. So I think that one's mostly movement focused, right? Geometry Dash 2.2. Can't wait to play the entirety of Rain World in GD. Forgot to take out the Pearl. Nice scavengers today. I might play Geometry Dash on stream for the update. I think it'd be kind of a weird game to stream on this channel. Maybe there's enough interesting like new content to check out for like dedicate a whole stream to, but then like if I want to play any more after that, it's just kind of like grinding out levels, you know? Doing like a lot of practice runs. Something that I don't think would be really as interesting. Although it's that much different than doing these speedruns. We had it. He was set up. I'm lost. That's actually kind of risky. I've done that a few times before that I like mess up a lot. Why did I pick up the spider? Don't ever pick up the spider. Unless you're in a tunnel. Then you could pick up the spider. That was not very good. Yeah, I always do a fastball there. That didn't work out. I have a feeling I might run into a lot of creatures in a bit. Favorite modded slug cat? I like Rivulet. Actual answer, I'm not really sure. It's been a while since I played modded characters, and I've kind of forgotten most of them. I think I like Lancer a lot, just because you can do as many E slides as you want, unlike what I just did. But people don't usually play Lancer for the movement. I'd have to look back through a bunch of the mods that I played to like have a good answer. But I'm a fan of Rivulet, and they kind of feel like a modded character. They were originally a modded character. I can't believe that worked. Although, isn't Lancer the one who takes fall damage really easily? I remember that very well. I was trying to go down the wall and I kept dying to fall damage. They're very weak. That was kind of annoying. Yeah, I have no idea what this pace is. Nomad. Right, the glide character. I do want to play that. Also, you can play Lancer as any downpour Slickette. Do they have like unique abilities? Or is it just they stab instead of throwing? Don't switch now, please. I just told you not to switch now. Okay, I still got that. Okay, turn storage on this pole to do backflip up here. That's how you do this room in normal gravity. There's like clouds in this room with the shadows. Okay, kind of messing around there. Hello, welcome to the stream. Our run's going. I think this is the like first or second attempt. Considering what's happening right now, it's not going very well. Otherwise, the rest of the run was going very well up until right now. Basically just need to play perfectly for the rest of the run. Pretty reasonable thing to ask for, right? Scale RNG. Somehow I did a slide while crouching. I tried on purpose to go down that pipe in the right direction, and I still messed it up. And also I forgot about the spear that I stuck into the wall from earlier. That slowed me down a bit. I have no idea what this pace is, and I'm not using splits. I definitely will play Nomad eventually. I'm not good at that. Okay, or that. Like speedrun guide. Super in depth. Put it up. Yeah, no problem. You might see a bit more of that right now. Okay. I didn't mean it like I was going to die to that thing or anything. Thank you for falling right there. Exactly when I was passing by. That was actually very convenient. I was hoping. I was hoping. Waterfront facility is my favorite region. Nobody. Really? People really like the music, right? Honestly, I don't really know why the music is so popular. Like, it's alright. Like most music in this game. It's not like the best start music out of all of them. I don't think so. Now I can see exactly how slow I am. Maybe I should do an expedition as Nomad. Focus on like exploration, just going between a lot of different regions. If they are a movement focused character. Already feel like restarting. Chimney Canopy. It's a cool region, but as the harder difficulty slug cuts, it just becomes a huge mess of lizards. By the way, in these split, it says that I have 270 attempts. About half of those attempts are from restarting at the very beginning, within like 10 seconds. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but it's not far off. It's always a huge mess of lizards, but usually it's like pink lizards or white lizards, and you can usually get around them. But when it's like cyan lizards, plus like tropics. But I do like the region as like Survivor. There's a firebug that wants your blood. Oh, that's always the case. You're never safe from the firebug. They're waiting. Of course I do that again. Wait, hold up. I just realized. Were you talking about the joke speedrun guide video that I made? Where I die a whole bunch? Or are you talking about the actual speedrun guide like live stream that I did? That's like an hour long. I initially assumed that you're talking about the joke video. But I just now consider the possibility that you're talking about the actual guide that I made. Actual speedrun. feel like that I should like make a better version of that video. Because it's you know, being a live stream, it's not like the cleanest guide video. Like I could make it an actual like fully edited video. But also I don't know how to do that. And it's also just a little bit outdated. I like after making that or after doing that stream, I have found a bunch of new tech to do in this run. What do you think of the idea? I think that idea is great. I was definitely paying attention to it. Excuse me. Also, yeah. Welcome to the stream. Please don't. Thank you. I'm very good at paying attention to the game and the chat at the same time. Custom region plus nomad, basically. Maybe, but also that's kind of the thing that I was thinking about with the custom regions, like a modded character that's focused on good movement would kind of break apart the entire region by just being able to fly across everything. Not like that they're able to do that, or that they're not able to do that against like every other region in the game. But you know, there may be like specific like platforming sections that are designed around more balanced characters, like Survivor or Hunter. Wow. Okay. I kind of don't know how to feel about that wall bounce because you end up getting stuck on the slope in a weird way. Okay, that's not great. Alright, see ya. Thanks for stopping by. You know, that's actually the one wall bounce that I don't want to do. Actually, no, there's a lot of accidental wall bounces that I do that slow me down. Ooh, that's a big one. Even the challenges are challenging. Expedition with all the burdens. No. I've looked at most of the burdens on their own, but I just don't like the permadeath burden. And then the combining burdens together, like Hunted alone is like a huge pain. Like that burden is like almost okay on its own, but I don't think you can stack it with much else. Don't roll. What are you doing? That's up there, but that's alright. Oh, this is not good. Sometimes that happens. Just have to go up there and grab one. Goodbye, 10 seconds of time save. From the way they were talking about it, it seems like that actually is like a fairly balanced character. Like that's how it should, those new kind of move mechanics should be, where they're slow if you're... They're slow in most cases, but if you know how to use it well, then it can be much faster. That's not what Rivulet is. Rivulet is just always faster. Probably more balanced than some of the downpour characters. Yeah. I do feel that some of the downpour characters feel like modded. Rivulet, Artificer, Saint. Saint is completely broken. Like really. People see that Saint can't throw spears and they're like, alright, this character is like not good. And yeah, if you want to do anything combat related, of course they're not gonna be able to, not gonna be as good. But that's like irrelevant in their own campaign. Unless you're doing a score run or something for some reason. At the scavenger. Sorry, dude. Not a fan of that, but that's what happens. Aren't doomed with the Karma Flower perk. I'm aware of that, but also that's annoying that this one Karma Flower is the one thing saving you. Is that you always have to go out of your way to retrieve it. Custom map isn't done. It's not gonna take forever for that to get finished. At least based on the original concept for the region. They probably like scaled back the whole thing though, right? Like they're not making an entire DLC for this one modded character. Maybe they can ask Andrew for help on that. Thank you guys. Really making this a lot easier. Just kind of bothered by their existence. Honestly, like riv cycles are still like a decent. They're still pretty long. I didn't start the timer. Like if you know where you're going, but I guess that's the problem, right? If you don't know where you're going and you're just wandering around, then the long cycle or the short cycles are a problem. But if you know how to get to the next cycle or to the next shelter, then you only need like 2 minutes for that. Unless you get really slowed down by creatures. I could probably do Rivulet's campaign as like Survivor and still be mostly fine until you get to the underwater sections. Just getting from one cycle to the next is not that bad. You know, for these speedruns, we initially thought that the cycles would be too short. So we enabled the remix setting that makes cycles always the maximum length. Which I took advantage of and realized that you could get all the way from drainage system to the wall in a single cycle. Even though you only have like 4 minutes. And there's like multiple shelters on the way there, so you don't even need to be that fast. You never need to make that much or go that distance. The biggest problem is in areas like farmeries where you do kind of just have to wait around. But in like the areas like that, like farmeries and shoreline, where you sometimes need to wait for jetfish. Really doesn't have either of those. That's a problem because you can swim in shoreline, of course. Means that you don't need jetfish at all, but also that whole underwater shortcut to get past the deer area, so you never have to interact with deer at all. Actually, I kind of wish Rivulet leaned a bit more into the whole short cycle thing, because you get to Pebbles, and now the cycle is infinite, right? It can't rain in Pebbles. And then once you get the refraction cell, then the cycles are very long, right? So if you immediately just rush to Pebbles, then you only have like a few cycles that are like very short. I mean, of course, that's not going to happen for most people. You're going to kind of wander around a little bit. Maybe you go to shoreline first, and it's like not, or like take a path to Pebbles that isn't optimal, which makes sense, of course. Like who's going to immediately farm up to level 5 karma and then go up through the gutter? A lot of people didn't even know that the gutter exists. But like the short cycles is like the one downside for a downpour character that I actually really like. Most of the time, characters are overpowered in one way and then really annoying in another way. But for Rivulet, it's actually a good thing. They have short cycles. Kind of leads into the speedrun feeling of this character. Somehow the scavengers actually didn't get in the way at all. My own skill will, though. Of course, it just ended up being slower anyway. And I have one less fruit. It's not a problem if I can get a bat fly later. Gourmand is an awful character until you learn how they actually work. And I only learned how they work once I installed a mod that showed how much stamina they have. Before that, they felt like a really annoying character. Alright, see ya. Thanks for stopping by. I think I might end stream soon too. Depending on how the next few attempts go. But like Survivor is like kind of hard to get used to. I mean, the game is hard to get used to at first. But for Gourmand, you're like actively you're actively punished for making certain mistakes. I definitely didn't need to restart there. Yeah, that's pretty much what I had figured out. Way better if you know how to crouch jellyfish. Like, if you roll everywhere and you crouch to recover stamina, then like it's barely a problem. Except for combat, where it still is a huge problem. I didn't even start the timer. If you don't figure that out immediately, then it kind of is just awful. And you won't have a good time with the character. Well, I guess actually a lot of people did enjoy Gourmand. Maybe it's because I knew a bunch of speedrun tech that I tried to use that a lot. And kind of punished for that as Gourmand. Like, don't jump around too much. Don't do too many, like slide pounces, roll pounces. I still don't think Gourmand is very good for combat, though. Against any individual creature, it's like totally fine. Stun them with a spear, or stun them with a rock, throw a spear, and that's it, you know. But the moment you deal with multiple creatures at the same time, like Gourmand is hopeless. Every single scavenger in the entire region in a single room, goodness. Yeah, it's like cool to like land on creatures from a height to like crush them, right? But if you're out of stamina, then you can no longer climb poles very fast at all, so you can no longer gain the height that you need to do that. And like you can slide into creatures to deal damage to them, but what if you run out of stamina right when you slide into them? So that way you no longer have the speed to escape from that creature. Like, yeah, you can keep doing slide pounces to keep them in a stun lock, but what if there's another creature that shows up? You'll ever make a Gourmand speedrun guide? I don't know. The thing is that I also kind of don't like the idea of making speedrun guides because speedruns are sometimes not the most fun thing. I don't know, I feel split about this because like I want to kind of make the speedrun community. I want to make or help the speedrun community grow, right? But also like, do I actually want more people to speedrun this game? Because it can be really annoying sometimes. It's like, hey guys, here's a way that you can play the game that is less enjoyable than just playing it normally. Rain World really Railroad really encourages patience. Most situations can be dealt with just by waiting it out. And I really like that when playing casually. But I really don't like that for speedruns. Because you don't want to just sit around and wait for things to clear up, right? You always want to be moving forward. Okay. Like what was I supposed to... That was just like RNG. Like if there was a scavenger there who wants to kill me, then I die. And now I need to spend another 3 minutes karma caching. It's fun when you get to the point where you're like doing the fun movement and you're like actually making progress in runs. But like I've just spent the past like what 20 minutes just restarting. Most of it spent in drainage system. I used them earlier in the stream. I used a mod to disable creatures, and I finished the whole run like a few times in a row. And now that I'm actually doing real runs with creatures, now it's like slowed down to a crawl. Maybe I'll make like I don't know. The funny thing is that the Rivulet speedrun guide that I did does not really have that many views. And I think a lot of people don't even know it exists. Like people like still go onto Discords and ask for help with with Rivulet stuff, and even ask like, hey, I'm gonna speedrun Rivulet. Like the first thing that they think of isn't to go to watch that video that I made. They don't even know that video exists. And I don't really like the idea of going around and like telling people like, hey guys, I made this video, you should go watch it. I don't really like doing that. And I also figure that if you are interested in speedrunning a certain character, you could just go watch the world record run. That'll pretty much teach you exactly what you need to do a good speedrun. That's partially why I have the input display mod. If you want to do some of the movement that I'm doing, you can just look at that and just replicate the keys that I'm pressing. Just did a fast pole climb for a second there. PvP. Friendly fire. Oh, this is really slow. Maybe I'll just keep this run going until I die. Because I've been resetting a lot of runs. Definitely means I'm not going to get PB. Oh, split. Plus 14, that's the same time that I save in Chimney. Also, like Rain World, I feel like it's not really the kind of game that people replay a lot. I might be totally wrong about that. But like if I made a video that was like tips and tricks for Gourmand or whatever. Oh, somebody grabbed a pole there. Like that kind of video of like, it's nice for some games that they're very replayable because it means that you can improve your like future playthroughs of the game. For Rain World, like who's gonna be like grinding out like speedruns? Like there's only a very small community for that. And most players probably don't care too much about being like completely optimized when just playing the game casually. World record runs can be discouraging if you don't exactly know. I don't really feel that way. One time, like before I was interested in speedrunning the game myself, there's this one video. I think it's actually outdated now, but an old world record of the Pebble percent run. That was really fun, and that probably was one of the big reasons I started speedrunning the game. Just like how clean the movement tech was for like the entirety of that run. It's like I kind of feel like for me that's like good motivation to be like, wow, this is what good runs can look like. I want to try that myself, you know. But also, I know what you're saying. Like, you can look at a speedrun and just, like, you have no idea what anything means. Like, what are they doing? Hey, dude. Definitely still losing time. That was a previous run, right? Oh, great. It's had a few more time losses on top of this. Well, thanks for stopping by. I think this will be the last attempt. I've already lost 14 seconds, which is like half of the time save I could possibly get. More than half, actually. That was scary. Goodbye, grapple worm. Alright, that's the end of the stream. Ah, that sucks. That's basically the part of the run that should be consistent once you get past the RNG of the creatures, the lizards and stuff, and chimney and drainage. Mostly like drainage in the gutter. The rest of chimney isn't that bad with like flying centipedes here and there. And maybe you'll run into like a blue lizard. But you can still die. This is kind of just making me think of the streamlined run. It's kind of the name that I have for it. There's definitely a better name for that, but basically disabling karma requirements, um, and disabling creatures. Maybe you could use, it's like a specific, like I'm using a mod called Game Journalists because this is what game journalists need to play the game properly. This is what like disables most creatures. It doesn't actually work perfectly. I think a better solution might be a mod that's just like that's called like get this away from me, something like that. I think that mod lets you disable certain like specific creatures. Like if you don't like dealing with slime lizards, then you can just disable them and they will be the only creature that doesn't show up. And so you could do that with every creature, except maybe for like a handful of key creatures that you use in the run. So like grapple worms, geeks, and maybe if a creature is important for beating a run, like the Scab King, leave them enabled so that you can actually finish Artificer's campaign. Like Artificer might actually be a much more interesting character to speedrun because it's just the movement. No need to carry a scavenger body around so you can do extended slides and EI hops and stuff, throw boosts. Plus you don't have to deal with the RNG of fighting scavengers. Maybe I'll do that. Yeah, I'm considering that. Maybe for like each of the downpour characters, Gourmand, Artificer, Rivulet, Spearmaster, and Saint, I could do a run with creatures disabled and no karma requirements. And just everything that is necessary for the run would still be enabled, like Geeks, Grapple Worms, and the Scab King. And then I would just do a run, see how good I can get that run. And that could kind of be the speedrun guide, right? Sometimes I don't get to showcase all the movement that I want to in a speedrun. Because, you know, who knows what's going to happen in a actual attempt. You may not pull off all the tricks that you want to. Like the Plunk, for example, in the Rivulet's run. In the world record run, I think I do a Plunk. And people are like, wow, that's a really interesting movement tech. Now, if I want to get a world record run, I have to do the Plunk too. That's not entirely true. You don't need to do the Plunk. It just so happens that on that successful run, I happen to get a Plunk. Right, but it would be cool to have a run that just shows all the movement tech. Well, that's also slightly difficult. Considering this new format, even with no creatures and no karma requirements, you know, to make things faster. Creatures are, you know, there's still a chance of making mistakes. That just happens. So I wouldn't be able to show everything, of course, but I think I'd be able to practice more and being able to like pull those techniques off consistently instead of having to worry about like the added creatures randomly. I think I might do that. That's enough talking. Thanks everyone for watching. See ya.